Listen now to the book, One Night with the Hybrid King, written by the author Anya Curves. If you want to buy the ebook, link in the description. Subscribe to the channel. Like and share. Chapter 81, Seraphina. Karen, I don't know what else to do. I scream in frustration, hurling the lamp from our bedroom against the wall. The sound of the impact echoes, reverberating through the walls like a reflection of my own fury. Shards of glass fall at my bare feet, and the room seems to tremble with me. That bitch is still alive. How did that pathetic human manage to survive the werewolf attack? I pace back and forth barefoot, feeling the cold stone floor under my feet, which only intensifies my anger. The chill of the floor contrasts with the growing heat in my body, and each step is an echo of my indignation. My nails dig into the palms of my hands as I cross the room, desperately trying to release the rage building within me. With every movement, my eyes catch Karen's figure, sitting in the leather armchair in the corner of the room. He's there, almost motionless, just watching me. His body radiates an unsettling calm, starkly contrasting the storm consuming me. He's wearing nothing but black briefs, which cling to his muscular frame in an undeniably enticing way. There's something absurdly sensual and provocative about his relaxed pose, as if he's completely unbothered by my emotional hurricane. His violet eyes gleam in the dim light, fixed on me with a mix of admiration and desire. I feel the magnetism of his gaze, as if he could absorb all my anger and transform it into something else, something even more intense and dangerous. And do you know what's the most pathetic part of it all? I continue, my voice turning into a venomous whisper. It's my idiot of a husband chasing after her like a lost pup at that stupid ball his cousin threw. I saw him, Karen. I saw the two of them, witnessed them kissing. My fists clench even tighter. They deserve each other, really all three of them, if you want to know. Caelum's cousin is another spineless fool, too blind to see the king wants his little human bitch like she's some prized bone. I spit out the words with disgust. Karen watches my outburst, and I can see a wicked glint in his gaze as his mouth curves into a subtle smile. He remains serene, as though my fury is a spectacle for him to enjoy, his face exuding an unshakable confidence. "Come here, Seraphina," he calls, his voice husky and low, so controlled it only provokes me further. He pats his thigh gently, a clear invitation for me to sit on his lap. It's a command, but also a disguised comfort, and I know exactly what he wants, for me to give in to him, to calm myself in his arms. With an exasperated huff, I walk toward him, the weight of my indignation still pulsing through every fiber of my being. I settle into his lap, the contact of our bodies bringing a mixed sensation of comfort and provocation. His hands find my bare skin, exploring it with slow, firm fingers, sliding along my arms and waist possessively, as though he's intent on claiming every inch of my anger. I think it's time we take a more direct approach. His voice is a warm whisper against my skin, each word dripping with promise. Hire the rebels. I'm certain there are mercenaries out there willing to do the dirty work for you. It's just a matter of choosing wisely. His suggestion sends a shiver down my spine, and he lowers his mouth to my neck, his lips leaving firm, deliberate kisses. Each one feels like a mark, a blend of desire and threat that only he can wield so effectively. "It's too risky," I reply, my gaze drifting into the void. My hands tremble slightly, though I try to keep my composure. I already had to deal with the sniper I hired months ago. I had to dirty my own hands to ensure there were no loose ends. Even then, it was close. My thoughts swirl as I weigh the implications, memories of past decisions pressing heavily on my mind. Each choice, each mistake I've made to preserve my legacy, to save my home kingdom, feels like a stone tied to my soul. Karen watches me in silence, his hands continuing their slow, deliberate exploration of my body, his touch a mix of comfort and dominance. He understands my fears, but also sees beyond them, straight into the heart of my resolve. "I'll do it for you, Seraphina," he murmurs, his voice an almost hypnotic whisper. His eyes lock with mine, deep and captivating, as though they're trying to delve into my very essence. "There won't be a single trace of your involvement. Just give me the address of that little human, and I'll take care of the rest." I consider his words, the image of Caelum and that filthy human spinning in my mind like an unquenchable fire consuming me from within. Karen's hands continue to explore my skin, each touch sending slow, provocative chills through me. He knows my limits, knows exactly where to touch and how far to push my rage without breaking it. Wrapped in his arms, I feel my hatred sharpen, morphing into something almost pleasurable. Here's what we can do, I say thoughtfully, my eyes fixing on some distant point in the room. We'll hire mercenaries to follow her. I know that after the disaster at the ball, Alexander will take her on another trip and propose to her. Caelum nearly lost his mind when his cousin announced that. I recount with a wicked smile curling my lips. Karen watches me closely, his violet eyes glowing with an intensity that mirrors my own malice. With them tracking her, it'll be easy to find out where Alexander plans to propose. Once we know, we send the rebel mercenaries to take her out. Everyone will believe it was because of Alexander's connection to the king, assuming she was just collateral damage in a greater conflict. Karen articulates my thoughts with perfect clarity, and it makes me smile. There's something enthralling about his ability to grasp every nuance, to complement my hatred with his own. It's impossible not to smile at the synergy between us. What we share is more than mere words. It's a union of dark desires, an unyielding, inescapable harmony. I shift slightly on his lap, turning my body to face him, taking in every detail of his face. His expression is serene, as if he's completely at peace with the atrocities we're plotting together. My lips seek his, and the kiss we share is overwhelming in its intensity, a blend of raw desire and profound relief. I feel the warmth of his breath against my skin, and the yearning surges through me like a tidal wave, invading every fiber of my being, as though I need to absorb every fragment of his presence. There's no way I could do any of this without you, you know that? I whisper against his lips, my voice thick with a longing that transcends everything else. You have the same heart as me, Karen. They beat as one, forever. My words are more than a confession. They're a promise, an unshakable truth etched into every part of me. And he knows it. He brushes his fingers along my face with the tenderness of someone who knows every inch of me, who understands even my darkest secrets. His touch traces a slow, almost torturous path along my skin until it reaches my lips. The tips of his fingers glide over my mouth, sending a shiver cascading through my entire body. He holds the power to make every piece of me tremble with a single touch, and he knows exactly how to control me, how to ignite my desire with every word, every gesture. If you asked me to burn the world, I'd only need to know if you want it done with gasoline or alcohol, Seraphina. You know that better than anyone, Karen says, and I can feel the absolute sincerity in every word he speaks.
Chapter 82, Aria. Before any coherent thought can form in my mind, the sharp, devastating sound of shattering glass pierces the silence of the house, reverberating through every corner. The crash echoes in my head, and my heart races wildly, pounding with panic. Before I can process what's happening, Alexander reacts with lethal precision, pulling me down forcefully, pressing my body against the cold, rigid floor. Each heartbeat pounds painfully in my ears, and a startled scream escapes my lips. Terrified, I realize I am completely exposed, vulnerable. Alexander positions himself above me, his arms like shields, forming a protective barrier as his body molds to mine, offering the only shelter I have now. I feel the warmth of his breath against my skin, but all I can think about is the threat outside, the intrusion that has shattered our world. Yet his presence brings a desperate sense of safety, an irrational certainty that he is my only chance. Aria, I need you to trust me, okay? His voice is unyielding, steady like a trained soldier's, exuding an authority that brooks no argument. He knows exactly what needs to be done. His words hit me like a command, a lifeline, and all I can do is nod silently, unable to form any words. My vocal cords feel frozen, every attempt to speak dying in my throat, crushed by the suffocating terror consuming me. Even if I wanted to scream, to call for help, the words refused to come, leaving only fear to fill the space inside me. Alexander lifts me to my feet, but keeps our movements low, guiding me down the hallway toward the staircase leading to the second floor. With every step, my muscles tense, ready to bolt at a moment's notice, but I'm unable to move without his direction. The silence in the corridor is oppressive, and every shadow seems to shift menacingly. We stop near the staircase, and with a swift, precise motion, Alexander presses against the banister. I watch in disbelief as he manipulates it in a way that, at first glance, seems random but soon reveals a hidden passage. The sound of an unseen mechanism disengaging reverberates, and a narrow staircase is unveiled, a dark tunnel that has been hidden all this time. He pulls me closer, his eyes locking onto mine with a fierce, unwavering intensity. I need you to go into this tunnel, he orders, his deep voice laced with urgency. It leads straight to the city below. Once you get there, ask for help. Before I can protest, he's already guiding me toward the entrance of the staircase, his arms firm against my back, as though he's already decided for both of us. My mind rebels against the thought. What? You're not coming. My voice escapes, trembling with nerves and a desperate pain that echoes in every word. Panic surges through me as I grasp the seriousness of his intent, the sacrifice he's prepared to make. Alexander, you can't face them alone. They'll kill you. My shout is almost a wail, every syllable heavy with anguish. In a desperate impulse, I grab his arm, trying to pull him with me into the narrow, dark tunnel. I feel every muscle in his body tighten under my fingers, solid as concrete, unyielding as a stone wall. It's like trying to move a mountain, and the futility of it crushes me. My mind is consumed by chaos, the only clear thought being that I cannot leave him behind. Desperation builds inside me, rising like a tidal wave threatening to drown me, and my eyes lock onto his, pleading for a way out, for something to change what feels like a final goodbye. Your chance of getting out alive and returning to the twins is greater if I stay and fight, Aria. Alexander's voice rings out, firm and commanding. Amid the rush and desperation, he leans into me without hesitation, pressing a brief, searing kiss to my lips. It's a fleeting touch, but it carries a universe of promises and silent farewells. Then, with the same resolve, he pushes me down, his hands firm on my shoulders, guiding me into the safety of the tunnel's depths, where he believes I'll be safe. Surprise and pain swirl within me like a storm as I try to comprehend his actions. How can he think of my children, prioritize their lives and mine, in the middle of such an absurd, dangerous situation? He makes this choice instantly, without hesitation, sacrificing everything so that I, somehow, have a chance to return to them. The weight of his sacrifice presses against my chest, making every breath a struggle. The secret door closes with a heavy, muffled sound, and darkness engulfs the tunnel, a thick, oppressive darkness that seems to swallow even my thoughts. My heart pounds so violently that each beat echoes against the cold, damp walls around me like a relentless drum. All I can hear is the muffled noise of wood and stone, the door being forced, and the menacing voices that follow, like shadows taking form and closing in. Every fiber of my being begs me to turn back, to run back and pull Alexander out of this impossible situation, for both of us to escape together. But that cursed secret door stands as an unyielding barrier, and I have no idea how to open it again. The only thing I can do is follow his instructions. With every step I take, the painful reality of my helplessness intensifies. I stumble through the narrow tunnel, my footsteps echoing loudly. My body moves on instinct, driven by the urgency to reach the end of the passage, by the fear pounding inside me like an incessant drum. The darkness here is absolute, making it impossible to orient myself. Yet, even as I stumble, I keep running. Every uneven patch of ground beneath my feet feels like a treacherous trap, but nothing stops me. Nothing can stop me from pushing forward with all the force and desperation I have left. I don't know how much time passes as I push forward. Minutes seem to stretch into hours, and my thoughts are a chaotic mess of silent prayers, desperate pleas for Alexander to survive, for me to somehow find help. With every step, my body screams in exhaustion, my lungs burn, but I ignore every sign of weakness, driven by thoughts of him and my children waiting for me, blissfully unaware of the nightmare unfolding. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, faint slivers of light begin to pierce the darkness at the end of the tunnel. The sight of those timid beams ignites a surge of hope within me, and I quicken my pace, even as the muscles in my legs burn, teetering on the edge of collapse. I breathe heavily, my chest rising and falling frantically, my legs threatening to give out with every step. When I finally reach the end of the tunnel, it opens into a vacant clearing, hidden beneath the shadows of surrounding trees. The fresh outdoor air floods my lungs like a blessed relief, and the distant sounds of cars passing and people talking bring a fleeting sense of reality, a brief moment of peace amidst the chaos. I stumble out of the tunnel, breathless and trembling, my body still humming with the adrenaline coursing violently through my veins. My eyes dart across the street, searching desperately for any sign of help, any authority figure who might hear me and offer protection. Each step I take feels unsteady, but my gaze frantically scans the area. Suddenly, my attention locks onto a tall man standing with his back to me, his posture unmistakable. I nearly collide with him as he turns, and there, standing before me, is Caelum. Relief explodes within me, a tidal wave of hope that briefly drowns out the fear clawing at my insides. "Thank God it's you." The words spill from my lips, heavy with barely contained desperation, a frantic hope shining through. I stare at Caelum, almost unable to believe I found him. He's my only hope now.
Chapter 83 Caelum. The memory of that kiss with Aria haunts me like an unrelenting shadow, clinging to my mind, invading every thought, every second of my days. I try to wash away the taste of her from my lips and my memory with alcohol, pouring drink after drink, hoping the intoxication might drown the storm of emotions she left in her wake. But nothing works. The burn of the liquor only fuels my anger, my frustration, making the sting of her rejection cut even deeper. Aria's refusal doesn't just wound my pride and vanity. It slices through my chest like a cold blade, embedding itself in a heart I once believed was immune to such foolish sentiments. How dare she? How dare Aria refuse me, lecture me, deny what I offer? She, a human, dares to look me in the eye and say, "No, I am the king, the damn king, and I can have whoever I want, whenever I want, a lycan, an enchantress, or a human. They always fall at my feet. The power I wield makes people bow, yet Aria resists, defying everything I know, everything I've achieved. The annulment of my marriage to Seraphina feels like an endless torment. Every second I lose waiting for it to be finalized only feeds my impatience, my burning desire for Aria. To hell with honor. To hell with whatever notion of loyalty Alexander imagines exists between us. I want Aria for myself, and I will have her, one way or another. These thoughts churn in my mind as I drive toward the nearest town outside the capital, heading to the cabin where she's staying. Ever since Alexander announced during a dinner that he planned to propose to Aria officially, I've been consumed by fits of rage that not even my transformations into a wolf can quell. My mind spirals deeper into resentment, desire, and obsession as I navigate the winding roads. That announcement has awakened something primal and unrelenting inside me, a fury like a beast caged within, a fire that refuses to be extinguished, a hunger that cannot be satisfied. I have no solid justification for showing up at the cabin, but I couldn't care less. I'll make something up when I get there, any excuse, even a lie if necessary. The truth, after all, no longer satisfies me. If I must, I'll reveal everything to Alexander about what's between me and Aria. I'll throw it in his face, every intimate detail. And with that, she will have no choice but to be mine, even if forced by the weight of destiny. Who in their right mind would return to someone after discovering such a profound and intimate betrayal? Alexander, the honorable, the loyal, he certainly wouldn't. Even he wouldn't possess the grandeur or capacity to forgive such a treachery. And that is precisely what I intend to use to my advantage. It doesn't take long for me to arrive in the quaint countryside town. I park my car at the hotel, one of several establishments I own around here, but I don't go inside. Instead, I decide to walk for a bit, trying to organize my thoughts and craft a convincing excuse to show up at the cabin. Each step brings me closer to the cabin and the moment when I'll have Aria within reach again, the anticipation growing, ferocious and unrelenting, inside me. Then, out of nowhere, her scent floods the air like an overpowering wave. It's unmistakable. Aria. But now there's something else mixed with her scent. A sharp tang of adrenaline, of fear. My heartbeat quickens, and a flood of possibilities rushes through my mind. Did Aria reject Alexander's proposal? Did he, overcome with frustration, send her away from the cabin? The thought is cruel, but it blooms into an unexpectedly satisfying scenario. One where I wouldn't need to lift a finger for her to come to me. It's at that moment that I feel a sudden, urgent impact against my back. A desperate touch. I turn swiftly, and there she is, Aria, in the flesh, her wide eyes brimming with panic and her breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps. Her hands clutch at my jacket, her fingers digging into the fabric with desperation. "Thank God it's you," she gasps, her trembling voice barely above a whisper, fragmented by her rapid breathing. "Alexander, someone broke into the cabin." Her voice falters as she struggles to catch her breath. "You have to help him, Caelum." Something primal and possessive awakens inside me. I grip her hands firmly and guide her back toward the car, locking her gaze with mine. "Tell me exactly what happened. I command, my voice cold and steady as our hurried steps echo toward the garage. The moment we're seated in the car, I start the engine without hesitation, the tires skidding slightly as I take off. Grabbing my phone, I put it on speaker. Asher, I bark, every word laced with urgency. Send a team to the town of Enchantress. Alexander and Aria have been attacked, likely the rebels. They must have discovered his hidden identity. Asher's reply is immediate, assuring swift action, but I don't wait to hear the details. I hang up and focus on the road, navigating the narrow, shadowed streets of the town as we head toward the mountain where the cabin lies. Aria sits beside me, her wide eyes reflecting her fear and tension. I want to comfort her, to ease her worries, but my mind is singularly focused on devising a strategy for when I arrive at the cabin. As we near the cabin, I pull the car into a hidden clearing between the trees, out of sight. The scent of other lycans and enchantresses lingers in the air, mingling with the earthy smell of damp soil and leaves. Magic hums around me, almost as if it senses my presence, and something within me stirs, a deep, ancient part of myself, wild and unyielding, awakening in response to the looming battle. My own energy surges, and I feel the heat of transformation simmering beneath my skin. The wolf and the magic inside me coil together, merging, making me more than just a man or a beast. I am both, and I am ready. All right, Aria. I need you to stay here and wait for Asher to arrive. I'll head up and help Alexander. I inform her seriously. There are at least 5 rebels with him. From the scent, 3 are lycans and 2 are enchantresses. Aria nods silently, but I can hear her heart racing, the fear she radiates saturating the air inside the car. As I approach the cabin, I notice the magical defenses Alexander set up are active. He's a skilled soldier. He knew every security measure of the house. Outside, I spot 2 lycans armed and firing at the cabin, while another lycan fully transformed is already inside. The enchantresses are casting a spell, trying to break the cabin's magical defenses. I take advantage of the element of surprise. Focusing my energy, I feel the magic coursing through me. Not mere strength, but the hybrid power of lycan and enchantress combined into a devastating symphony of might. With a quick motion, I unleash an explosion of light and force, throwing the enchantresses back. Their figures are violently flung into the air, vanishing with cries of shock and pain. In mere seconds, both are neutralized, leaving the battlefield more open and giving Alexander a crucial advantage. I turn my attention to the inside of the cabin, where I see Alexander locked in combat with the transformed lycan. Their strength is evenly matched. Alexander's movements are swift, but I notice he's injured, a slight tremor in his arms, blood dripping from cuts on his face and chest. Entering the cabin, I don't hesitate. I launch myself at the 2 armed lycans with ferocity, combining magic and physical power in an attack that catches them off guard. They try to fight back, but I shove them away with a blast of magic that sends them crashing into the trees. Their bodies vanish into the forest darkness, their screams muffled as they fall amidst branches and dense vegetation. And then, piercing through the chaos, comes Aria's voice, a sharp, desperate scream. "Alex!" She rushes to Alexander, dropping to her knees beside him, her wide eyes filled with horror at his condition. I want to order her to step back, to let me assess Alexander's injuries and handle the situation, but her raw pain paralyzes me for a moment. Aria throws herself over his body, cradling him with a tenderness that stands in stark contrast to the chaos surrounding us. She holds him as if her touch alone could shield him from the death looming over him. Her hands tremble, her fingers tangling in Alexander's hair, and tears stream down her face, falling onto him as though they might somehow heal him. Alexander lies unconscious on the ground, shifting back into human form. His body is riddled with bullet wounds and claw marks from the lycan's attacks. "Please, please, don't leave me again," she murmurs between sobs, her voice frail and choked, her face a mask of anguish. "Please, Alex, come back to me, and I'll say yes. I swear I'll say yes. Just come back. I'm begging you." Every word is a piece of her soul, a desperate plea. I watch the scene unfold, a storm of conflicting emotions swirling within me. Part of me is drawn to her pain, almost captivated by the sheer intensity of her love for Alexander. Another part fights to remain composed, resisting the urge to intervene. I see the depth of her feelings, the raw, unfiltered desperation in every gesture. And though each second of this sight cuts at me like a blade, I won't interrupt.
Chapter 84 Aria. Everything around me is a blur. I can't focus on anything but Alexander's faint, shallow breathing beside me. The ambulance races toward the hospital, though I wish it were moving faster. My entire body hums with the adrenaline still coursing through me. My thoughts and prayers are entirely focused on Alexander. His pale face is smeared with blood and marred by injuries, and the rest of his body isn't any better. This is my fault. Completely my fault. If I had told Alexander the truth before the trip, none of this would have happened. He'd be safe, maybe heartbroken, but alive and well. Tears stream down my face again, and I fight to keep from breaking down entirely. The moment we arrive at the hospital, Alexander is rushed into surgery. My worry deepens, intertwining with my guilt. I pace back and forth in the waiting room, unsure of what to do with myself. Aria, Caelum's voice cuts through the fog of my thoughts, pulling me back to the present. He stands a few steps away, his face reflecting the same worry that weighs heavy on my chest. But it doesn't ease my heart. I move closer to him, and as soon as I do, the tears start again. Caelum opens his arms, and I step into his embrace, seeking comfort. Alexander will be fine. We're at the best hospital, the same one you were treated at. I promise he'll make it, Caelum reassures me, his hand gently stroking my back. This is my fault, Caelum. I should have told him the truth. I couldn't bring myself to say it. I was selfish. I should have said something. I confess, letting the shame consume me. Aria, don't think like that. Alexander is a soldier. He's made more enemies than I can count on my fingers. This has nothing to do with you, Caelum argues, but I shake my head in denial. I pull away from his embrace, needing to look him in the eye. Caelum, I couldn't say yes. He proposed to me moments before, and I could barely get the truth out. I explain, my voice steady but tinged with regret. Because of you, I couldn't say yes. Caelum's eyes narrow slightly, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. I take a deep breath, feeling the surge of emotions crash over me again. My love life is a mess, Caelum, and it's because of you. You carry this aura, this overwhelming force of emotions that consume me, I admit, exhaustion evident in my voice. When I'm near you, it's everything you described. But I can't be the other woman. There's too much at stake to give in to such a whim. Aria, I feel nothing for my wife. Our marriage was purely a political alliance, and without an heir of our own, the annulment is already in process. I did this because I want to be with you, Caelum reveals, leaving me stunned. This revelation could change so much, and I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. The mention of heirs immediately puts me on edge. She wasn't able to bear children for you, then? I ask with curiosity, and Caelum shakes his head. And what does that mean? The pursuit of heirs? These attacks from the rebels? How is having children supposed to fix all of that? The thought that my children might be Caelum's, and could therefore be in constant danger, makes me feel sick. Caelum seems to notice the sudden shift in my demeanor, my growing unease. Aria, I need to know. He steps closer to me, lowering his voice slightly. Are your children mine? The exhaustion of carrying this burden, avoiding any bond with Caelum, has dragged on for far too long. I sigh in defeat and shrug before answering him. The truth, Caelum, is that I don't know, I admit honestly. The same night I was with you, I was also with Alexander. They could belong to either of you. Caelum's eyes soften at the revelation, a glimmer of happiness appearing as a smile forms on his lips. So they could be my children, right? He asks, his tone hopeful. We can make this work, Aria. His growing excitement makes me feel cornered by him once again. There's so much that Caelum wants from me, things I simply cannot give him. Caelum, no, you're not seeing the full picture, are you? There is no us, no you and me, I say firmly. For God's sake, Aria. Then what do you want? I've already told you, my marriage to Seraphina is over. The annulment is already underway. You won't be anyone's mistress. Understand that, Caelum counters with impatience. I know I won't be anyone's mistress, Caelum. I want to be with Alexander. Can you understand that? I lied to him. I hid the truth from him because I want to be with him. It's selfish and wrong, I know that very well, but it's what I want, I declare with conviction. You really think Alexander will want to take you back after finding out what you've done? That you slept with me and then kissed me twice? And if the children are mine, do you believe Alexander will want to raise them? Or that I'll allow him to? Caelum snaps, his voice tinged with irritation. I think it's you, Aria, who's not seeing the full picture. I want you, even with all this mess we're in. But Alexander? He might not. Caelum's expression darkens, becoming more serious, and it frightens me. The ruthless, commanding king I'd seen in news reports is now fully present, and my fears about the children being his grow heavier. Well, your majesty, I'm flattered by your interest in me. To settle this matter, I'll return home. I need time alone, and only then will we know how to address the paternity of my children. I declare softly, stepping away from Caelum with hurried steps. As I turn onto my street, I immediately notice something is off. All the lights in the house are off, and everything is eerily quiet. I glance at my watch. It's not that late. It should be dinner time. I approach the house and step inside, finding it completely silent. Kids! Mom! I call out, turning on the living room lights. The moment the room is illuminated, I'm struck with shock. The house is in complete disarray, with several objects smashed and broken. Panic consumes me as I rush through the house, yelling for my children and my mother, but no one answers. I grab my phone and try calling my mom, but no one picks up. Desperation rising, I decide to call the police, guilt already gnawing at my heart. I shouldn't have gone on that trip with Alexander. Now he's fighting for his life and my children are missing.
Chapter 85, Seraphina. The transformation spell feels like a second skin, molding effortlessly to my touch, familiar serpentine. I stare at myself in the mirror, watching as my face fades, replaced by the dull, soft contours of that insipid girl, Aria. My flawless skin and sharp gaze dissolve, giving way to her timid expression and forgettable features. A disgusted sigh escapes me, revulsion almost tangible as my beauty is obliterated by the plain, pathetic face of the dutiful and forgettable mother. But every detail is crucial for the plan. The transformation is merely a facade, the artifice paving the way for what must be done. Soon, while my mercenaries deal with fragile Aria and the foolish Alexander, I will have a far more critical task: capturing those bastards. The little ones are vital to the salvation ritual for Syltirion. Time is against me. I cannot afford to bear Caelum's heir myself, nor would I endure such a burden now. These two will serve the purpose well. The journey to her house is swift, but the anticipation makes each step a prolonged delight of dark pleasure. Before I even enter, I hear laughter and children's voices echoing through the house, carefree and joyful. The sound of their innocence fills me with deep disgust, but I steel myself, adjusting my expression to embody Aria's insipid aura. Kids, I'm home. I call out in an artificially cheerful voice, forcing enthusiasm that burns like acid in my throat. Instantly, hurried footsteps descend the stairs, and within seconds, the two little creatures rush toward me, wrapping their small arms around my waist, crying out, "Mommy, mommy," with absurd devotion. I freeze for a moment, unsure how to respond to such a pure, irritating display of affection. How can these children love such a dull woman? Why? This unearned adoration repels me. Then a figure emerges from the kitchen, a stern-looking older woman with sharp, scrutinizing eyes. Her lined face and weary hands gripping a grimy dishcloth seem to radiate disdain. "What are you doing here?" the woman asks coldly, her voice dripping with suspicion. For a brief moment, I think she can see through my spell. "Weren't you supposed to come back the day after tomorrow, Aria? Don't tell me Alexander's thrown you out again." Relief soothes my fleeting apprehension. No, she doesn't see past the illusion, just an old, distrustful hag. I flash a polite smile, delivering a soft, calculated response, each word crafted to sound like Aria's. "No, not at all. He had some business with the king, and we returned early," I replied gently. "Oh, of course," she scoffs, narrowing her eyes briefly before losing interest. "Well, since you're back, you can start making dinner for these kids. I'm tired of looking after them," she declares, tossing the filthy dishcloth in my direction, treating me like a servant. By the gods, how insufferable that woman is. Her audacity enrages me, and a flicker of my true nature nearly breaks the surface. I resist the urge to cast a spell that would leave her writhing in agony. But patience is not my virtue. The disguise only needs to last a little longer. As I hold back from revealing the disdain bubbling within me, one of the children, the girl with her wide, fearful eyes, seems to sense something. She takes a few hesitant steps back, her gaze brimming with growing terror. You're not our mother," she whispers, her voice trembling with fear. She turns and runs toward the old woman for protection. A smile tugs at my lips. Ah, how sweet it is to see terror blooming in these helpless creatures. "You got that right, brat," I declare, letting the spell burst forth from my hands in waves of undeniable power. The old woman and the children don't even have time to react. The magic strikes them with a subtle yet precise force, like a venomous dance that envelopes them, plunging them into a deep, unbreakable sleep. A chilling silence fills the room, and the satisfaction of having everything under control washes over me. Wasting no time, I make quick gestures with my hands, summoning threads of energy around the room, rearranging the scene to mimic an attack. I throw objects to the floor, shatter furniture, and leave debris and markings that suggest a violent break-in. Human authorities are laughably incompetent. They'll never suspect magic. To them, it will look like nothing more than a mundane burglary. With Aria out of the picture, I'm confident that Caelum won't suspect the truth of what's happened. He'll forget about those children soon enough, leaving them as the perfect pawns for the ritual. I can hardly wait for him to realize, far too late, what he's truly lost. Or better yet, perhaps he'll never know, which would be all the more satisfying. Taking a deep breath, I focus my energy and cast a teleportation spell. Arcane symbols draw themselves in the air, luminous spirals swirling around the unconscious bodies of the twins and the old woman. The magic hums, its edges vibrating with my intent. When the energy peaks, I feel the shift, the world dissolves around us, and in the blink of an eye, we traverse into my hidden lair, a secluded place far from human reach, distant from the vigilant eyes of the castle. I place the twins in a small, barren room. Nothing but thin mattresses lying on the cold stone floor. They remain in a deep slumber, blissfully unaware of their predicament. The old woman, on the other hand, is locked away in a separate room, isolated, where nothing but darkness and the echoes of her future pleas will fill the space. "Did you succeed?" A voice cuts through the stillness, and I see Karen emerge from the shadows, his eyes gleaming like embers of malice and pride. His gaze sweeps over the scene, landing on the unconscious children. A slow, satisfied smile spreads across his face as he steps closer with deliberate, predatory strides. He wraps an arm around my waist and pulls me into an intense kiss, one filled with shared desire and triumph. "And I brought you a little toy," I declare, gesturing toward the older woman. "You can test some new spells on her if you like. I believe she's the grandmother of those brats." Utterly unbearable woman, I add with disdain. Karen's broad smile spreads across his face, and it ignites a fire of desire in me. I couldn't have accomplished any of this without him. I'm certain of it. "Come, it's time to prepare the ritual. Our kingdom is edging closer to ruin, and their children will have to suffice," Karen states, leading me to the other room in the hideout. An altar, carved from Syltirion's enchanted stone, stands in the center. The air thrums with magical vibrations, and I can feel it coursing through my veins, awakening my own magic in response to the forbidden runes etched into the stone. If you like it, subscribe, share, comment, and like. If you want to read the book, link in the description.